Hi, I'm Cara Graver at the Cub Studio, and I'm here to show you DIY knitting. Do-it-yourself usually means you're using leftovers, or you're using something, a found object, or you're using something that's simple. You could go to the store and buy knitting needles. There's the metal kind, and now there are the bamboo ones and things like that, but sometimes it's so much more satisfying to be able to make your own. That's why you're watching this, because you're a DIYer. So, I have made these knitting needles. I lied, I did not make these, but look at how nicely they look like the ones I made. A tiny, skinny little dowel with a bead. It's kind of fun to find the beads that go with the right size dowel. I like these little flower pots. And if you're going to be knitting something from a pattern, which you might not be, because you might be somebody who makes up a pattern too, but if you want to know about what size your needle is, this is a needle sizer. So, and homemade ones don't really follow exactly. This one is a size 8, more or less. And you know, DIYers, more or less is good enough. This one is between a 13 and a 15, and so on. So you get the picture. You put your needle in, and that's the size, and that determines how big your piece is, how big your pattern's going to be. So this is perfect for knitting a scarf, because you don't really need a pattern for a scarf. You just need to determine how wide you want it, and just keep going and going until you're happy or tired of knitting straight. So here's another little leftover, these being chopsticks. And what you do with chopsticks is get them out of the bag. Sometimes you've brought them home from your Chinese meal and there's a little bit of food on them, so you want to sand that off. And you can use this coarse sandpaper to make the point. And you notice that I'm kind of rolling it back and forth, and I want to get all over the place. You can also use a pencil sharpener for this part. But this is kind of therapeutic and meditative to do it this way. And then for the long part, and this one's sort of square, so it's a little tricky, you can sand the sharper parts off with the coarse sandpaper, and this is 100. And the bigger the number, the finer the sandpaper. So you want a fine sandpaper after you've used the coarse sandpaper to make it smooth so that the yarn slips. This is not smooth enough for it to slip yet, but I don't want to bore you, so you get the picture. And one thing that's nice about the ones that have something like this on the end, this squarishness, is that that's the stop for your knitting, because you notice you've got something on the end here so that your knitting doesn't fall off the other end. If you're vigilant, you're going to be okay. But you can also use Sculpey, that polymer clay, and make little fruits or something on the end. Don't make them too heavy though, because you'll be sad, because you'll be trying to heft up your knitting needles to get your knitting done. Here's another little thing. I got these pencils from the dollar store. The lead is too hard. It doesn't really write well. It's hard to see. So if you just break the lead off, because if you wanted to knit with this, you'd be getting lead, if the lead came off of this one, you'd be getting, a dirty color on your yarn. So if you break the point, and luckily it comes out of the inside, and then you can sort of do the same thing you did before. Just kind of round it and shape it. And it doesn't even matter that there's a hole in there. And then of course you'd want to do the fine sandpaper too, because if it's rough, you'll be sad. And we don't want you to be sad. And for yarn, DIYers like to use leftovers. I have bags of leftovers. So you can make lots of different patterns in colors. You can make stripes. You can do all sorts of things putting those colors together. I'm Cara Graver at the Cub Studio, and that was DIY knitting.